We are officially here. Took a while, but I'm very excited to be joined by Ilisha Masaun. Um, this has actually took a while to get together, but she's a very valuable guest, and honestly, she doesn't know, but I've been watching her from afar, inspired by the work she's been doing. And yeah, so welcome, Ilisha.
Thank you very much, Victor. How's it going?
It's going well. You know, the cost of living is a bit high, but hopefully, with my new job that by the time this episode comes out, I would have been sort of settled into. I could keep up with the costs of the economy. I feel like you just want to dive straight into it as economy. Like, what is going on in the economy? So background information, if you guys didn't know, so I just graduated studying economics at the University of Warwick. So I'm trying to still not lose what I've just learned and apply it to our current day situation with the economy, with inflation is soaring. You know, rumors we're going to enter into recession, and Alicia we can discuss this with me as an economics graduate. So do you have any comments you want to share?
I think it's actually, yeah, it's soaring out of control, to be honest. I've seen some reports saying that they're anticipating about 11 to 12% by the end of this year, a recession is very much looming. So, yeah, it's not looking good.
And let's break it down, right? I feel like we're going to do an educational piece right here for the audience that don't know, haven't studied economics, don't know what recession, don't know what inflation is. So, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but as we'll get into as the founder of Econominds, I hope that you can break down some some information in digestible sort. So let's start off with what is economics? What does economics mean?
So, economics is essentially the study of how to put together unlimited wants with unlimited wants with limited needs. So, I mean, limited resources. So, how do we basically ration the scarce resources that exist in our economy? So, you've got microeconomics and macroeconomics. So, microeconomics is focusing more on businesses and how individuals interact with one another, whereas macroeconomics is more of that how large economies are interacting with one another, or how you know aggregate aggregated amounts of companies and industries are interacting with one another to um to affect our one singular economy, and then obviously how that can affect our world
It
economies as
sounded
well.
very complex. So, like, what would you describe inflation as? Because I think that's the major topic that anyone's seeing when they switch on their TV or read, the news.
Yeah, definitely. So inflation is just when you've got there's an increase in the cost of living. So you have something called a CPI index, which is your consumer price index, and essentially that values the average cost of a basket of goods. So year on year, they measure how much the average basket of goods costs, and they've seen basically what this 9% or 11% inflation rate means is that last year goods were 9% cheaper, or vice versa. This year, that average basket of goods is 9% more expensive. And then when we were talking about 11%, they're saying that by the end of this year, that same basket of goods from that time last year is now going to be 11% more
Wow.
expensive.
So, what does that mean for us? We need to save our coins.
I mean, to be honest with you, it's not even about saving. I'd probably say that it's more about trying to generate more streams of income, because if wages are stagnant, how much can you actually save if your average cost of your goods are going up? So let's just say you're making £1,000 a month and it costs you £300 to live. If it now is costing you, I don't know, 350, £340 to live, then it's not really about saving money. I think it's more about trying to make more money, because that wage is still going
Mm.
to stay the same. So saving in a situation when inflation is soaring out of the roof, I don't really think it's probably the best idea. I think it's more about how can you tack on extra streams of income, or how can you try and squeeze a pay rise out of whatever job you're doing right now.
Wow. See, I should see you on my BBC News when I switch it on. That is direct advice. You heard her. We need to make more streams of income. But no, even when you're talking, it sounds already like you're talking from an entrepreneurial sort of mindset and you're not following the traditional sort of route. Okay, everything's more costly. I can't afford to spend so much. So I'm going to save and spend less. But you're like, no, hold on a minute. You need to make more streams of income and bring in more money so you can afford the increase in cost of life in general. So like let's just take it all the way back, like before you became an economics graduate and before you became so knowledgeable on sort of these topics. Like when you were young, what was it that you wanted to be, that sort of dream job or dream career?
It's funny because I don't really think I ever had a kind of dream job in that sense when I was younger. I think I kind of went through school thinking I have no idea. Went to a top kind of grammar school, and everybody around me wanted to be a solicitor or a doctor, and I thought I have no idea. So I just to get everybody off my back, just used to say any old job, but I actually had no idea what I wanted to do. So I've gone through the motions of a plastic surgeon, an optometrist,
Oh wow.
yeah, just really random jobs.
Sorry, I can't even skip that. What was the last one?
An optometrist, so like an eye doctor. I wanted to
Okay.
do that. Yeah, I think it was more kind of science based. I think I always kind of saw myself in. Forensic scientist was another one.
Yeah.
And then when I was studying my A levels, I thought I wanted to work for CERN. So, do you know the Big Hadron Collider in Switzerland? So, studying kind of quantum mechanics, physics.
Wow.
And then, yeah, I was
But
like,
these professions, though, they're quite specific. I don't think you just, because I don't know the name of some of them. So surely, I mean, you mentioned that you went to grammar school. So
mhm.
was that, did you have to like do a test to come to grammar school? So
Yeah. So, it was an entrance test when I was 11 years old. And it was testing you on like maths, English, non-verbal reasoning, like
yeah,
spellings, comprehension, like the whole lot. And yeah, so you do that, and then I ranked in the top because our school only took in 96 students, so it was one of the most selective grammar schools.
wow.
And yeah, so I ranked out of, I think there was about 600 people that did that exam in the top 96,
Yeah.
and
And did you
yeah.
know I was smiling so much? I was one of them. The 11 plus, I promise you, I didn't rank it. I ranked in the bottom percentiles because I didn't get into grammar school. But we're here now. But congratulations! I think like anyone from sort of a young age, I like to sort of take back to your sort of childhood, and I can see for you. I mean, you probably studied really hard for those exams to come in at such a high position and going to grammar school. What was the learning experience like?
It was interesting, the learning experience that I had, because it definitely was around some fantastic minds. And I think definitely when you're at that age, that very young age, you're shaped very much by your environment. And to be around a lot of people that just really wanted to do well all of the time, I think was definitely crucial in creating the right mindset, I guess. I would say, yeah, I'd say that that was important. Teachers were good, but then you also had some bad teachers that were really kind of knowing that students would definitely take on a lot more in, you know, in their stride than other students at other kind of, say, comparable, just normal comprehensive schools, and left students to learn independently quite often. So I'd always say that my learning experience, I was lectured as if I went to university from year seven. Like, you know, 2, 3 pieces of homework every single day. So
Oh
it
wow.
was, yeah, there was a lot, to be honest with you. But yeah, I guess it was useful in terms of creating a work ethic. But yeah, I wasn't always the most studious individual when I was at school, though, despite the environment. But I do definitely say if I wasn't in that environment, I don't know what else I
You
would have
don't-
been doing instead.
yeah, no, it actually makes you think. And I was discussing this on a different podcast, and with Reggie Nelson talking about our upbringing, sort of schooling, and I was literally telling him that if I wasn't like if I wasn't in school, even I didn't go grammar school, but nevertheless, like I moved from my secondary school to a different sixth form. And I felt like that sixth form gave me good grounding in A levels to even go to university in the first place. And you just think, if you didn't take this option, where would you be like as of today? And I think for you is even interesting because your learning experience, or should I say style, is different from most, because you say that you were diagnosed with dyslexia. So when did you find out like that
So
you had this?
yeah, so I was diagnosed with dyslexia at 21. So I'd gone through all of school and basically finished my degree. Um,
Wow.
Diagnosis, but I think I always knew I was different, and the way my brain worked was very different. Because kind of throwing back to the 11 plus kind of situation, there was like spellings and like definitions that you had to kind of do and learn. And me and my cousin at the time were, similar age, and we were studying basically together when we were doing it. And yeah, I remember we used to sit next to each other when we went to our kind of tutoring lessons, and that was like homework. You have to have like spelling tests. And I just used to copy all of his because I just couldn't. How kind of like learn these spellings, but it just wouldn't work. And I just thought, I'm just going to copy his spellings. And there was me thinking I'm doing it on purpose, making a few mistakes. It wasn't. I just couldn't grasp some of them. And then one lesson, we got split apart because there wasn't enough space for us to sit next to each other. And I got 0 in my spellings. And my parents were like, how did you get 0? Like, you've been getting like, 17, 16 in your kind of spellings out of 20. How have you managed to get 0? And they just thought like I was messing around or something. But I just, yeah, spelling just wasn't for me. And again, with definitions, we'd had to research in in a dictionary to get to look them up and learn them. He'd be able, like my cousin, be able to fill them in about an hour and be able to get through them and learn them. It'd take me days to find the words in a dictionary, because any other dyslexic listeners here, a dictionary is a minefield. It's
Oh, wow.
an experience, character builder for sure.
And so how like why did it take up until 21 years of age? What sort of triggered you to?
Yeah, I think obviously being in that kind of grammar school environment, I never wanted to feel as though I was a lesser individual than anybody else. And I think there's a massive taboo around it, especially, 10, 13 years, well, yeah, 13 years ago when I was back in school. It wasn't spoken about. There was no information around it really. And like I said, the environment was very high pressure that we was in, that I just felt that there wasn't time to say that. I just tried to figure out a way on how to keep up and do it in my
Yeah.
own way. And that was what I had to do. And that's kind of where Econominds and the kind of story behind that comes from, and where I thought, you know what, I'm going to take the plunge and do something about it. But yeah, I guess that was why I thought when I was at uni, I thought, you know what, this is actually when I learned a little bit more about what dyslexia was, and I thought, yeah, this is very clear. This is what I have. And then when I realized and kind of looked at the superpower and the strength that dyslexia gives you, I thought every single one of my kind of abilities and my character traits that I get a lot of compliments on is all because of my kind of, I'd say, my dyslexic traits. And I thought, well, it's actually not, this is the thing that's made me thrive in everything that I've done. So I shouldn't be thinking that this is something that is a detriment to myself. So I went, got it checked out, and yeah, turns out that I am dyslexic. So yeah,
uh, and it's your superpower, because I
yeah,
mean, I'm not even assuming everybody knows what dyslexia means, because there was a point in time where I didn't know what it means. And for some people, like, just out of ignorance, might think, oh, people that have it are just a bit dumb or a bit stupid. So like, what is it, and how did it affect your everyday life, or what sort of the traits that you mentioned that
yeah.
come from it?
So in terms of what dyslexia is, off the top of my head, I couldn't give you what the dictionary definition is. But for me, what my experience of dyslexia is that it's something that is evident in the way that my brain operates is different. And I would say that in terms of kind of I'd say the things that hinder me, or the way that it hinders me, is that the way when I'm reading something, words can kind of move around the page. It's quite a strange phenomenon to trying to explain to somebody who doesn't have dyslexia, like what that feeling actually is. I guess the best way to think about it is if you've just poked yourself in the eye and you try to open your eyes and read something. That's probably the best way to explain how it kind of feels, or close kind of, something you can resemble to. But yeah, I'd say that with my spelling and with my writing, and I think this was my most frustrating thing, is that I feel like I could articulate myself quite well when it come to speaking to people. I'd love communicating, engaging via speech with lots of people, and like in class, I'd always answer questions. And but then when it come to an exam, what I had in my head wasn't what was actually been written out on a paper. So I'd be kind of answering a question in English or history or biology, and then in class, I would have been answering that question, we'd go to write it down, and then I'd look at my mark compared to my peers who had no idea in the class what was going on, and they'd be getting higher marks than me. I'd be thinking, this is strange. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I was the one that gave the class the whole answer, and I've got the bottom grade out of everybody. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I guess that was where that's where my frustrations lie. But I guess when you move into the real world, those things become less detrimental, because yeah, you might have to be sending emails and things like that, but you've got spell check and you've got loads of other tools that you can use to help you kind of mitigate making any mistakes. But in terms of the superpower of dyslexia, and all the positive traits it can give you, that plays out in real life more than anything can possibly kind of do. And like I said, I think that has propelled me forward above everybody in that sense, because I'd say my ability to laterally think and problem solve is different to other people. Like, my brain, if I see a problem, automatically starts to think of a solution. I think that's why I've been an entrepreneur from a young age, because I've always thought about, right, there's this problem, how can I solve it? That was the first question that always comes into my head. How can we solve this? And then I guess my resilience and my determination again comes from that, because I think I get quite, I don't know, I get stuck to it, to finding a solution. And if one way doesn't work, I'm like, right, where's the next way? Where's the next way? Where's the next way? And I won't stop until I actually find what that solution is. So I think in terms of that ability, is the ability you need to thrive in any industry, any job. So I'd say that that superpower is phenomenal. And I think another one is the ability to communicate and kind of empathize with individuals that you're talking to. So I'd say that is, again, a life skill that no matter where you are, what you're doing, if you can't communicate with one another, if you can't create an inviting and friendly atmosphere to share a conversation, then I think you're at a detriment there. So no matter how smart you are, what other skills you have, if you don't have that skill, then yeah, you're behind.
Wow, and I can see like you're living proof that your superpowers are working. And I love the fact you mentioned like from you've been an entrepreneur from young, and I know that we have some similarities because from young I've been running events, and I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but I had one business I'll tell you about, right? Sorry. So I grew up basically using eBay a lot. So like my family, we sold a lot of things on eBay. I bought a lot of things off eBay, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I think Amazon now is obviously the go-to, but back in the day, when Amazon wasn't
Yeah.
as massive as it was, like
Hmm.
eBay was the
Yeah.
go-to source. And I remember, so there was I think it was a wedding, like there was an event, and I helped my auntie go to it, and we're basically fitting on chair covers,
Mm.
adding little like decorations and centerpieces to the tables, and I was just helping out. Then I started to realize, wait, there's a lot of money in like sort of this decorating
Yeah.
things, and like there's a lot of weddings and parties pre-COVID, obviously. Everybody's like, there's always a party or wedding or for something, whether it's a 50th birthday, a 40th, a kid's birthday. So what I did, I started to check the prices of these chair covers, right? And I went online and I was thinking, how much does a chair cover cost? Because these were like just essentials, because obviously when you go to like one of those functions, they give you those the red banqueting chairs,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nobody wants
Yeah.
to nobody wants to leave them with like the gold thing, so you cover
Yeah, and
them
it's
up.
matching the carpet. Nah.
Exactly. So I must have searched the price, and I think I saw like 100 chair covers for like £200, right? So we're talking about £2 per chair cover, and I think delivery was quite expensive because it was heavy. But let's just say like no more than like £230. And I was like, hold on a minute, like how much do they rent these out? Because when I was fitting them on, we got them from like they were rented basically.
Mm.
Obviously, we didn't own them. So I was thinking, if I can rent this out, And if I can buy it, sorry, and rent it out, how much money can I make? I promise you, like when that idea, cause I sort of clicked with what you said. You see a problem, then your brain works as a solution.
Hmm.
Straight away, I promise you, I think I bought like 250 chair covers, right? Put them on eBay, 99p a pop, like a chair. And I started selling these chair covers or renting them, should I say, like crazy. I think in the first, like my first two jobs, I made the money back from the chair covers because I start like the £1 each. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And obviously, you have to sort out delivery and like you have to clean them and wash them. So when you factor that in, maybe yeah, after two or three, then that was like my not my first because I was a very busy child with a clothing brand and whatnot. But that was one of a lucrative to business that I done. And for you, I know that you've worked in sort of the banqueting, the halls, event stuff before. So like, what were you doing?
Yeah, no, 100%. So my family runs banqueting halls. That's why I had a big smile on my face when you just said that, because 100%. I remember like when I was, my uncle was telling me he was setting up, a big party. I think it was like 500, 600 guests, and he was putting the
Mm.
chair covers on. And it's funny that you say that, because I remember saying the same thing to him. Like, have we rented these, or do we own them? And he was like, no, no, like these are just rented, and etc. etc. And he's like, yeah, there's actually a lot of money. And he said the same thing to me. I do remember him saying, like, you know what, if you used to get into just doing these, supplying them all around in like kind of the West Midlands to, those the Indian, the Pakistani, the Bangladeshi big wedding parties, you just make a killing. It literally is.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. It's funny, it is, because yeah, how old were you when that happened? Because I was around about 14, I think,
I was
when
like,
it was.
I was in secondary school. So yeah, I was around
Yeah,
15. I was
yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah,
around 15, 16. And we're dropping free game here. Like
yeah.
we moved on to other things, but I mean, it could be still sort of lucrative as, post pandemic things start to open up. But yeah, I mean, that was just chair covers. After that, like I dabbled into so many different like decor stuff that some of it didn't work as well, but you just got to try. And I think that's the sort of entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
And like for yourself, so if you were doing that at what 14 years old, so I'm sort of getting the trail of how you've got to where you are today, because I don't think nobody wakes up one day and just be like, I'm gonna start a company. It must come from somewhere. So like, was there anything after that? So you're 14, you're in grammar school, you're studying, you're helping out with the family business.
Hmm.
You go to sixth form, again you're studying, then you go to university, and I don't think we mentioned it fully. So you studied economics with international trade.
Yep. So yeah, that's what I studied. So we did A levels at I did economics at A level, and then absolutely loved the subject. And that was when all these random jobs that I was just picking out of thin air, I just was like, yeah, that they ain't gonna happen. And that's when I thought I want to study economics as a degree, and I want to go into kind of finance and that kind of things. But I always, again, had at the back of my mind that if I was to go into finance, I would end up doing something entrepreneurial, or doing a job that had a large entrepreneurial spirit at its heart.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was always kind of me. Everybody at school, you speak to all of them, they'd always say like, yeah, like she's gonna run a home business,
Her
she's gonna
business.
be a
She's gonna be the
millionaire. Yeah.
millionaire. Yep, yep. I've heard it. I've heard it before. And I could see it. I could see it. And we're on track. I hope those people place bets because I bet they'll cash out. But yeah, and congratulations. And you got a first class in your
Yeah,
degree.
appreciate that.
So talk to me a bit about what you did straight after university.
So yeah, so as soon as well, it's probably best to go backwards, actually, because I was very busy at university. It probably more comes from when I left school. So when I
Cool.
left school when I was 18, um, you know, my older brothers, they were at uni, and they were saying, like, student loan isn't enough. So like you're gonna need to do something and graft in some kind of way to make some money. And I thought, I don't want to stock shelves in Tesco's. Like, that isn't what I want to do to make money. And I was tutoring at school whilst I was doing my A levels. So like everybody used to come to me after class and was like, I don't know what has just happened. Can you teach us? And all my free periods, I was essentially teaching and tutoring my whole class, and there was about like 25 students. I was like teaching and tutoring because I used to just pick up economics like that, which again I think comes from that kind of relatability, always having an entrepreneurial mindset, always kind of been head in the news. I've always found that kind of thing super interesting. So when I studied economics, it was just like, oh, I've seen that in the news. Oh, that's what that official name for that is. Oh, that's what that is. So, you know, economics came easy to me. So I had a lot of experience tutoring economics at that point. And then I thought, yeah, I'm going to tutor economics. And again, I looked at a problem and found a solution, because Rand, where I live, couldn't find an economics tutor if you tried. There was nowhere that you could find one. And if you were, you was paying silly money for this tutor, 60, 70 pound. And I thought, well, I think I know economics quite well. So I'm going to just start tutoring it. And that's what I did. And so instead of starting and doing a job like, a retail job like most people do, I thought I'd start up my company, Econominds, little shameless plug
God.
there. But yeah, so that's what I did. And like I said, I always envisioned when I started this, it wasn't like to build this big company. It was just, I don't want to stock shelves in Tesco's, so I'll just do some tutoring on the side. It's flexible. I can make the same amount of money working a couple of hours, so I'll just do that. So I came in the market with a really accessible price, used the school name I went to, went back to that school and offered tutoring services, in which students kind of took me up on my offer. Then I thought at the same time, to build some more experience and that kind of thing, I'd worked at Explore Learning as well. Um, and again, that was tutoring students from the ages of 3 to 14. And again, that was like a great experience working with students with dyslexia, autism, ADHD. Again, just kind of was reinforcing that thing in the back of my mind, thinking you should probably get tested, because this student is exactly like you. It's like looking in a mirror, and you know what I mean. So yeah, so picking up all that experience, and then it was just referrals from parents that I'd tutored one of their really young students, and then it was, oh, actually my older daughter or my older son's doing this. Do you want to tutor them on the side? And then I left that job, and then I went full time, kind of doing that tutoring. So yeah, that was kind of what I did at uni, and then at the same time was building like a corporate finance career, because in my head it was just do economics. I'm going to do that kind of corporate career. In my mind, I thought I was too young to start a proper business. So that's why I thought, like, oh, this will just do it on the side, and I'm going to become, go into that corporate kind of line. You watch Wolf of Wall Street and you think, that's it. I'm going to pick up the phones, and that's it. Tomorrow I'm going to become a multi-millionaire, because I know what supply and demand is. And then you soon quickly
Wow.
realize that isn't the way it pans out.
It's not that easy at all. No, that is absolutely phenomenal. And just to think, so you were at university. Was this in around first, second year?
This was literally as soon as I started my first year that I was like, right, I'm going to do tutoring. So it was literally in the I think it's first month or two. And then I
You
was
didn't
also,
waste no time.
no, I
I'm
was
so
also
sorry.
tutoring on my course as well. So students that hadn't had an economics background, um, because obviously economics at A level isn't mandatory to study at degree, it's just studying maths. So yeah, students were coming up to me and asking me, like, wow, like you're actually blitzing ahead of things. Can you help me out? And then I started, like, again, like tutoring them, helping them with their courseworks. And then, yeah, just charging, and then creating that business of tutoring and teaching students A level economics.
Wow. And I feel like it'll relate to so many people because tutoring is just one of those things I feel like majority of everyone has tried in some sort of capacity, whether they try to charge or not. Because even myself, I've had my phase of, trying to tutor here and there or sign up to one of those online sort of companies. And because you really think about it, wait, if you can just relay sort of or teach someone and they're paying you like for example, you mentioned Tesco tills. Like, no offense to Tesco, I'm not sure how much they pay your workers, but let me just say £11 an hour, right? But tutoring, you could get probably like £20 an hour, 25. If you're the upper tier. I think I know I have a friend, but because he goes Cambridge, so he's got the name. I think he was earning around £50 an hour, and I
Wow.
was just like, that is ridiculous. And for you, like, it's different when you actually build your own company, because you didn't, well, you did work for other companies in the process, but you've built a company that's here to last because you're still, you're rocking it right now. So we're gonna dive into that. But you also talked about sort of, so you, at this point in time, you're studying economics and international trade. You started tutoring, and you're sort of building your corporate career. Because I
Hmm.
saw that you done some work with, or experience with, amplified trading,
Hmm.
and for for you, that must have been in their early stages, because now they
Yeah,
do
yeah,
like
yeah.
massive work with investment banks, asset managers, hedge funds.
Mm.
So I feel like you were just on it from young. You were just on it from young, and it's so, I mean, it's so exciting to see. So what was your process in terms of getting these sort of work experiences during university?
Yeah, so amplified trading, it was like, advertised to us on our course. Um, and then I thought, "Do you know what? Like, I want to get an experience of what it's like to be an investment banker." Because I think when you just, say the best example, you watch Wolf of Wall Street and you think that's it. I'm going to do that job, and it's just glorified, and it says just pick up the phone and call. The way that investment banking and just the banking and finance sector in general has kind of changed over the past 20 years there's a massive difference. There's been a huge shift in culture, regulation, and you can't do what you were doing then to make a quick buck. Um, so yeah, I thought I don't actually know what investment banking is. I just know that it makes lots of money, so I want to do that job, and it's something to do with finance and economics. So I did that experience, and that was when I got my dose and got my reality check and was like, I don't want to be a trader. Like, that is not what I want to do. Like, this
Uh,
isn't like, because we had to do the simulation and all of that. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't me. Like, I couldn't sit here just looking at candlestick charts all day trying to do, like, it's not for me. Like, I don't want to do that. And then that's when I thought, oh no, like I had all my hopes and dreams sat on that, thinking that's what I'm going to do. And then I was like, oh, that reality has been crushed very quickly. So, shout out to Amplify Trading for helping me open my eyes and realize
nice.
that wasn't for me. Um, but yeah, I think for me, I then, like with the whole tutoring thing, when I was tutoring A level economics, as I was kind of morphing into, when I said I was doing work with Explore Learning, I was also doing a bit of work with another 11 plus tutoring agency. So I was kind of doing a few different tutoring gigs here and there to pick up experience and pick up clients. And it was at that 11 plus, the other private 11 plus tutoring company, um, that the owner of that actually owned or was starting a hedge fund. And then he put me in touch with um, his investment lady, and he was like, "You and her will get along really well. Um, have an interview with her and see if," because he asked me like, "Are you interested in that?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." So he put me in touch with her, had an interview with her, and yeah, me and her just got along like a house on fire. And that's when I kind of got introduced into like what hedge funds are and what the difference between what front office and back office is, and what all the different roles within front and back office actually entailed. And then I did a kind of research analyst role with them in my first year. So I was tutoring at the same time, all the different places, and then I was doing the internship as well. And then again, that's when I realized I hate back office, but doing that job allowed me to realize all the different roles within front office, because I thought it was just trading, and then back office was compliance and research, and I thought, well, I don't want to do any of these. I hate all of them. So now my plans are stuffed. I don't really know what to do. But then it opened my mind up to, all the other divisions and other things that, you know could exist in there. And then that's when I heard about kind of asset management, wealth management, mergers and acquisitions, and I thought, okay, that seems interesting. Um, so after that internship, I used that as a platform, or like a springboard essentially, um, to go to my university and say to them, look, I've done this role, I've done this tutoring, and the things that I like out of the tutoring, I'm sure that there's roles in finance that incorporate that, in terms of kind of talking to clients, having like a client facing role, and breaking down really complicated things into really simple terms to help individuals. There must be a kind of role in finance that does that. And then by, my luck, she was like, yeah, it's actually, there's something called wealth management or financial planning that is quite similar to that, actually. And she's like, there's a scheme for third years that we've just recently started, but because you've been so on it, like you've done all these jobs, you've done the amplify trading stuff, and you've even been able to get yourself, an internship as well, we'll put you on the scheme or fast track you through. So I went onto that scheme, and that honestly was when everything changed, and that was the game changer for me. I think that was the best decision and best thing I ever did at university. Forget the degree, forget everything else. That single experience was the best thing I ever did at uni. So yeah, that's when I met my mentor, and he's been absolutely crucial in me and my development, I'd say, over the past kind of 3 to 4 years. So I did all that other stuff when I was 18, moving into 19. And then, yeah, when I was 19 years old, I met my mentor, who's called Keith Hare, and he works for a Benchmark Capital, which is a subsidiary that's been bought by Schroders. So they're backed by Schroders 100%. So yeah, I met him, and his company, or what Benchmark does, is they are basically like a business in a box. They provide for financial planners or financial advisors, they provide support all along the way. So they have their own network, they've got their own technology, they've got their own platform, and then they've got an M&A arm to the business where they buy other financial planning businesses, so smaller financial planning businesses. Um, and yeah, I went to this event, I heard him speak, and I thought, like, wow, I'm so like touched. Like the role that I wanted to do exists. A financial planner, like that's what they do. Look, they speak to people, they learn about what their goals and ambitions are for their life, and then they tailor their money journey to ensure that they can get there. And I thought, this is the perfect fit for me. Everything, all the different jobs and the trials and tribulations I've gone through, like there it is. That's what I wanted to do. And then it was a mentoring kind of program, and it was everybody's names were in a hat, and they just had to they just picked out names of a hat and assigned everybody to their mentor. And I was sitting there praying after I heard him thinking, please, 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 like I really want to be with him. And in my head I thought, if I'm not with him, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make it happen. I'm either gonna stop with someone or I'm gonna do it. Like he's gonna be my mentor. And by, again, you know, universe or whatever you want to call it, he was actually my mentor. I was picked out of the
Wow.
hat, and he was assigned as my mentor. Um, so yeah, it was fantastic. And then I spoke to him, um, and I was really blown away, and I was like, I want to become a financial planner. And he was like, that's a very strange thing for a 19-year-old to say. Like, I've never met a 19-year-old that's come up to me and said that they wanted to be a financial planner. And I was like, honestly, the things I've done before, like this was the thing that I wanted to do. Like when I was speaking to the careers advisor, all the things that I loved about a job and all the things I hated about a job, I listed them. And a financial planner is fitting the bill of everything I wanted to do
You
in a
want to
job.
do.
And yeah, he was like, all right, then send me over your CV, and we can see what we're working with. And he was like, after, a couple of years later, he told me this. He was like, I honestly expected you to come back to me with a CV that had like nothing on it. He goes, I thought I was going to just coach you on how to write a CV and, you know, how to build a CV up. And he was like, when I looked at your CV, I thought it looked like a CV that a 30-year-old had done. And he goes, I didn't expect you to be 90. If you didn't tell me you was 19, from what your CV had on it, I wouldn't expect it. And he was like, yeah. Then he sent it out to 5 of the firms that he'd bought. Um, and yeah, I got an interview back from all of them, and I went through all of the interviews again with flying colors, I guess, and got 5 offers, and I was like, wow. So I
Whoa.
picked the one that was the closest to my home. And yeah, I honestly had one of the best experiences, like, that I could have asked for. In that time, I qualified with my general financial advice certificate, so my RO1 certificate as well. So I did an internship for 3 months, got my qualification, and I was just like raring to go. And he was like, wow, like you really do want to become like a financial planner. So yeah, I thought I was set on my path. And then, yeah, then everything changed again.
Everything changed. That is a publishable story. We can wrap that up right now and sell it to the media companies. I let them know they heard it on Valuable Podcast first.
First, yeah,
But no, I mean, there's so much in there, and I never knew this, and it makes so much sense. And I picked up some themes whilst you're talking. First one, if you don't ask, you don't get. you
yep,
know you are not the person to just it didn't work out, or sort of just don't ask for opportunities. And I feel like that is just evident throughout your whole story. The second one is the common one everyone says, and I'll keep on saying until people get: your network is your net
your
worth.
net worth.
So
Yes,
it must have been from that lady that got you, I don't know, an internship with a hedge fund, that got you experience for now Coventry. I mean, well, to you to get onto this program, that got you now your mentor. Now your mentor's helping you, and it's like, wow, it's just like I can see it just manifest in your whole sort of journey. And I
yeah.
feel like, even just, sorry to cut in between it, so like, but was it a straight path towards where you are now, or did you venture off into something
Yeah,
else?
so I ventured off into other things. So, like, it's so difficult to tell this story in a streamlined way without it getting confusing because I was doing so many different things all at once. Because, like, whilst I was doing the research and you know, internship, I was also writing a book for my business.
Okay, well, we haven't even touched that yet.
That's what I mean. Like, I tried to leave that part out. I tried to do it in like strands so people can follow it, and then I can merge it all together and say, well, this was all happening at this time. That was all happening at this
No,
time.
yeah,
That
but
was all
let's
happening at
talk
this
about
time.
it now, because I feel like this is a perfect entrance to talk about
Yeah,
sort of your business and what exactly is it, and how exactly did it sort of start and take off. Well, we already know that you started tutoring within the first months of university.
yeah,
So how did that sort of propel forward?
yeah. So it was tutoring. And then what I realized was, and again, this kind of kicks back into that kind of the way I was at school, that I realized that when I was tutoring, students were asking me for notes. And I was like, I don't have any notes. Like I looked back at, I thought, what are my notes? I just used to have random scraggedy post-it notes that I'd just written random facts on or questions. That's what I ended up doing in class. I'd listen and absorb information. Like I said, because it wasn't a brand new concept to me, because I'd been listening to the news and because my mind just was really focused on absorbing that information. When I was in class, I wouldn't have to take notes. I'd just write myself questions about the key stuff that I'd learned in the class. And then when I'd come back out, everyone was asking me to teach them. So for me, I was reinforcing all my knowledge whilst teaching. And then what was left with when I left my A levels was scraggedy bits of post-it notes with facts and figures on there, and loads of questions, and then A3 mind maps of economic diagrams and chains of analysis and essay plans. And I was like, this isn't this nobody else is going to understand what this means. Like I don't know how to give my students notes because I never made them. um and that's where the idea of making the book came from, because I thought, right, I've got all these essay plans and I've got everything all over the place. Why don't I just try and compile it into one kind of thing? And then again, that's where I spotted a gap in the market. I'd gone through countless number of mark schemes and examiner reports, and the key thing that I found for A-level economics was the use of a diagram is basically your key to an A star. That is the difference between, a B grade and an A star. You using and how well you can use an economic diagram. Um, and yeah, I guess when I looked at all my notes, I thought I've literally got the key to an A star. So why don't I make a resource that is just specific to the diagrams and get a step-by-step tutorial on how to draw them? Because you will know some of them are quite complicated. They've got 5, 6 different lines all over the place. So if you just see the end product and you don't know what's going on, it's quite difficult to replicate that diagram. So a step-by-step tutorial on how to actually draw it, and then an A star example of how to actually use that in an essay. So what exam technique do you need to use to get an A star if you was talking about that specific diagram or using it in your essays? And that's what I ended up so out of the idea of, oh, I need to try and find notes for my students, actually created a resource that was a gap in the market. I wasn't replicating what everybody else had done, because then I thought, I'll be smart. I just signpost them to getting free notes online, and then I will create this resource which adds or the value, which is what is going to make money. Because if you was to create notes and try and sell them, you don't make any money off that. You make a couple of quid. You're making a completely unique resource that is the key to getting a top grade. And everybody wants to try and get those top grades the easiest way possible. If you can provide that vehicle for them to do so, they're going to be tapped in. And that's what I realized. So whilst I was tutoring, that's kind of what happened. I thought, right, I need to write, I'm trying to create this resource. And then it ended up being this kind of diagram guidebook. And it was it sold out. It went like hotcakes. Like
Wow.
it was incredible. Like I
So
didn't
how
expect.
sorry, I was just gonna quickly ask, so how did you market it? Did you sell it directly to the students? Did you give it to schools? Like where do they go to buy it?
Yeah. So what I did was, I took a big gamble. I think I'm a risk taker. I am, and I think when you're an entrepreneur, you need to be. You can't think of everything that goes wrong. You need to think of everything that can go right. Create a bulletproof plan around it. So don't just completely ignore things that could go wrong, but don't keep them at the top of your mind. Create a bulletproof plan and make it happen. So I realized quickly that schools don't have that much money to buy books. When I was talking to them and trying to kind of feel out that market, I thought, right, it's not them, it's the students who are going to want to buy this book directly. So what I did was I went back to my old school first. Like I said, it's got a very, very big and great reputation. One of the best schools in the country, actually, was a school I went to. And I went back to them and I said, is it okay if I kind of, I've created a resource. Is it okay if I talk about my journey so far through university, what uni is actually like studying economics? Is it okay if I come back and do a little talk for you guys? Happy to do that for free. And they jumped at it. They were like, yeah, of course, like as much insight as our students can get, we want to give them. And obviously when I told them worked in a hedge fund and all of that kind of stuff, they were like, yeah, like come back. Great, great, great. And obviously I was quite a well-known student at school as well because of you know, not being the most well-behaved student at school. Um, so yeah, everybody was like, yeah, 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 like this is a great kind of success story to spin back to the students. So I came back, I kind of just talked to them about what economics is like and gave them that kind of insight, provided them that value. And then I showed them my book and I said, guys, how's economics going, by the way? What's your kind of biggest struggles? What are you struggling with the most? Every single student said diagrams. I don't know what my diagrams are. I can't remember them. I don't know how to use them. I don't know what's the point of a diagram. And then I came in with the winning golden Willy Wonka ticket and I said, here is the solution to all of your problems. Um, so yeah, and then so writing that book was like incredible. So I sold books at my old school, and then word got round because the grammar school kind of in the West Midlands are quite close knit. There's not that many of them. So word gets round, and you start to see your friend doing well in another school. What are they using? What are they doing? And like I said, it just kind of went around like wildfire. So I went around to other schools and said, literally use the same approach. Can I provide this session for your students? Get lots of value. I got testimonials from my teachers, and just replicated that, and just went to there and just sold the books out. So I took that risk, pre-printed all the books. So our big box of like 400 books turned up at my house, and I thought, right, I need to sell these now. And then went round and did it. So it was a bit like a door-to-door sale, like a market kind of sale, just one-to-one. Um, and yeah, I just sold them. I think if I was to do it again, I would have done it in a lot smarter and a less risky way. But I think the way you learn is by doing. So yeah, I just
Absolutely. Like you literally got out there, toured all those schools and got your book inside homes. And I feel like I respect it so much. And I feel like that's just what you need to do. So that's to me sounds like it was your MVP or minimal viable product or
yep.
what you use to test that, economics. There is demand for this. And obviously you managed to bring out the supply. So after that happened, like when did you think, okay, there's more to this, how can I turn this into a business, something that can be registered, something that can generate revenue and have
Mm.
sustainability going forward?
Yeah. So at the same time of doing that, so when I launched my book, and I think it was like after my first, the first sales in the schools, I applied to do a placement at the Department for Education. Um, and when I got into the Department for Education, I went in and did my interview. Like the interview process for a government role is very grueling, to be honest with you. I didn't expect it to be so difficult. But it's like you have to do a competency-based like interview. You have to do like a maths test just straight on the spot, and then you have to do the best way to explain it, if anyone's done A-level economics or if you've done economics as a degree, they just give you like a statement or like an essay question, and then they just say discuss. So you basically have to write we basically have to talk out a 25-mark essay off the top of your head. So you have to present your 4 points, your against points. You have to go into really detailed chains of analysis, present examples, evaluation, all on the spot. They don't tell you what the questions are beforehand. You don't know what topic they're going to bring up. They're just going to ask you any economic question and you just have to answer it on the spot, which I was like, whoa, I was quite overwhelmed. I didn't realize that it would be like that. And like the example question that they give beforehand was super like easy. I thought, yeah, that'll be fine. And then they asked me like some really complicated question about like the education system. And I was thinking, I don't know. Like, I just had to take a minute and I thought, right, like, you literally tutor. So get your mind into what you tell your students. And then I just kind of compose myself, answer the questions, obviously went for my skills based, like competency based questions. And then there was a bit at the end where they were just kind of just like just general interview questions. And I was like speaking to them, and I'll never forget this question. They asked me and they were like, so where has your passion for like education come from? Like, why should we pick you over somebody else? And then that's when I had my book in my bag. So I thought, like, if this comes in the right chance, I'm going to kind of pull this out and see what I can do with it. So I pulled out my book and I put it on the table and I said, tell me any other student at the age of 19 that's come into this room that's got their own revision guide and has already sold copies of it. And they just looked at me and they were just looking at each other like, what? And I was just like, yeah, I've not come to mess around. Like, this is me. Like, and then when I saw how like elated they were, and then like they were like, right, kind of like off the record, we did A-level economics, kind of like, can we have a look through? And they were like, this is absolutely fantastic, this is phenomenal. And then that's when I thought, this isn't something that's kind of small. Like, there's a big gap in this market. Every single person I've spoke to about economics always says that there was no resources. They'd had to just kind of wing it and do it all themselves. And that's when I thought, like, yeah, like, this isn't just a small time side thing to do whilst I'm at uni. Like, this actually has potential to become something massive. Like, there's a massive gap in this market that I can plug with different types of resources that people are missing the trick on, essentially. And it was in that interview when I saw them look at each other, I thought, I definitely have the job. I've never felt so confident in an interview in my life. I thought, yeah, I've definitely got the job. And it was the look on their face. And I thought, government, economic, economists in the government, like government officials looking at this, working with the Department for Education, saying that this needs to be rolled out across schools across the country, was when it clicked to me that I've actually done something pretty fantastic here. There was actually a huge gap in this market that
Love
I've
it.
actually been able to plug, and that is when I kind of felt the gravitas of what I could do and what could come off of it. So that's when I really started to push, and that's when I kind of stopped all those other kind of jobs and really started to push and build up my tutoring base. And I landed a school. So a school was actually going to pay me to tutor their students because they were behind. So they knew they were behind the curriculum. So out of their pocket, because they had a lot of pupil premium money, they were going to pay me. Obviously, I was going to take a super discounted rate for the students, but obviously because I was taking 30 students at once, I was like, I'm happy to take that super discounted rate on
Yeah.
my fee to tutor 30 at once. And I landed that, and I remember it was all just, oh, it was buzzing. And I was like, fantastic. And then the pandemic hit, and I lost all my students because all the exams were cancelled. And I was like, oh no.
Oh
I
no.
thought I was onto something big. Like, I was built up, built up, built up, thinking I'm going to become the Queen of Sheba. And then the rug got pulled beneath my feet.
It
Very
literally fell flat.
swiftly. Yeah. And I was like, oh wow, I've gone from hero to zero overnight. Honestly, I didn't know what to do with myself because I thought, oh, like, I've geared my brain now thinking this is going to become the next big thing. And then I lost every pupil. And I thought, oh no, I don't know what to do. And obviously there's that massive uncertainty. No one knew when anything was going to come back open. No one knew when exams were going to come. And I thought, what do I do now? I don't know what to do. And I went to my mentor and he said to me, look, why are you looking at it with that lens? You need to bring your optimism back. And I was like, you're right, actually. And he was like, remember you said to me that you wanted to be a millionaire? Well, if you want to become a millionaire, you need to be able to make money in your sleep. Use your business to find a way to do it. Then what emerged and exploded out of COVID was Edtech. Edtech was the way, the vehicle to allow me to make money in my sleep. If people are buying courses off me, I'm no longer having to sit in front of them and tutor them. So I'm not trading my time for money. I can now create a platform. And that's what I did. So that's what came out of it. I had this money in my business and I thought, what do I do with it? Do I take a risk or do I play it safe, take this money out, put it in some investments for the future? And I thought, I'm too young to do that. So I'm going to take all that money out of it and I'm going to jump 2 feet in to making an app. And that's what I did through COVID, having no technical coding experience, no background in project management of tech. I just thought, right, I'm going to jump into building the platform because I knew I was onto something. I said, this can't be it. Like, this has just shown me that doing one-to-one tutoring face to face isn't the right model because this has just wiped everything out. Going by
Mm,
hand and selling a book isn't the one because when you can say, yeah, put it on Amazon, but when all your delivery drivers can't do this and everything shuts down, the world shuts down, then how about logistical issues? How do you get the print company and how can I make this completely sufficient that it's doesn't need to rely on anybody and it can just run in the background and take off? And that's where I thought I need to digitalize everything I'm doing. All my tutoring needs to become online. I'm not offering physical products anymore. Everything is going to become a digital project, a digital product, and that is where the Econominds platform was born from. So everything that all the trials and tribulations, all the experience, all the exposure that I had up until that point was leading to that moment for me to fall flat on my face to say, now use your brain and actually think about where the
oh,
future's going. Don't try and make a quick buck now. How can you make money in the future? And then that
wow.
was that was what I decided to do, and then jumped all in about a year ago, and then launched the platform about 6-7 months ago. So yeah, like we haven't turned back now, and our entire proposition, all of our products, everything has moved to a completely digital space now, and we don't offer anything in that kind of respect of like physical products. And we do face-to-face events and things, but almost everything it can be done hybrid, or we have an online, or we do it just run it online.
Online.
Yeah.
Wow, that is again another story that you heard it first on the valuable podcast. No, I'm just sort of like, I'm a marvel because it's like your living case study of like how the pandemic literally is kind of like you went through it, but you came out stronger. Your business was tested, brought to its knees, but you literally like Superman, like just came flying back out stronger. And it shows you, I feel like, and it doesn't even need to be the pandemic, it just needs to be something that shows you that okay, this business model is not the best, because like you just said, if it was the best, there's no way you should have lost all your students. I'm sure like your
Literally.
money flow income would have just halted. Does that make sense? So
Mhm.
you found a way to, okay, how can I make this sustainable? And I love the fact you said edtech, because honestly, whilst you're talking, I was just thinking as a econ student in university and studying econ at A level econ. I promise you, you're so right. There was no, I mean, the only resources I had was the past papers, that physics and maths tutor,
Yep.
and there
Well,
was one other platform that I found out 2 months before my exam, and oh, what's the name? It started with a U, like
upload.
Uplearn.
Yeah.
Upload. Now that was the first ever platform I used, and the reason why, and I promise you, in that 2 months, I had like I banged out, as in that platform and me, I saw it more than my teacher, and the reason why I loved it because it was the first ever thing I saw in terms of edtech. Like they were showing me like videos to do with how I think, AI learning. They were doing active recall. They were doing so much learning, and I was like, wow, they must be making bank. And the thing is, I didn't actually pay for it because I was a pupil premium student. Well, in sixth form they call it it's something else, like 16 to 19 bursary student,
Yeah.
whatever.
Hmm.
So I had a free access to it. So it's sort of like just using it unlimited. But yeah, like that ed tech space is really, really massive. And you've went on to now literally, like you said, you launched your platform 6 to 7 months ago. Not only that, you've been able to pitch, successfully win £5,000. So talk to me about that now, because we talked about sort of your model, but when it comes to entrepreneurship and the business side of things, like how do you actually now raise funds to scale this?
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, the money that was already in the business, I invested all of that to get our MVP to market. So that has built the platform as it is now. It's paid for all the development work. It's done any marketing, every single thing you can think of that you have to pay for has come out of that budget. And that budget was not infinite and it wasn't huge. I definitely underestimated how expensive creating an edtech platform could be. Um, so yeah, I was tested there, and that was where I was like, right, I have to look at what are my priorities, what do I want to get out there, and then what things can come later. And so that's how I prioritized it first. So I looked at, so if anybody that's starting a business or anyone that's looking to get into, creating digital products or things like that, there's some things that you think, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want it to do all these crazy features, but you need to rein it in, because that's what I'd realized. I had all these crazy ideas, exactly what I want my platform to do. I was asking people for quotes. They were coming back with £250,000, £300,000. I was thinking, little 21-year-old me does not have that money. So I need to prioritize. I need to think, how can I make this in the most simplest form? And then once we started to get traction, then we can start to build the kind of bits that go around it. So that's kind of step one that I did, was right, what can I do to streamline what my offering is, and kind of go for the what's the bare minimum, the basics that I can do. So we got that built, and then, like I said, took it to market. I was only anticipating about, because we launched it in October time last year, and I thought, right, like I'm only gonna get like 100 students on this platform max. Like I think that would be like a good target. Like if we can get 100, that would be great. And I was like pushing it on TikTok, and the first day we launched, we had 500 students on the first day, and it crashed our server. And I was like, oh my god, like what are we going to do now? And that's when I found out the fund that Santander do. And I thought, I need to pitch, I need to get money quickly that we can pay for a new server, because that is expensive and I need the money. So we pitched, like what we've done so far, what we plan to do, what we plan to do with the money. And that's always super important when you go for a grant, is what do you plan to do with that money? Because most people will enter a grant saying, we love to use that £10,000, that £5,000, and it's really going to make us the next new business. But they don't actually break down the cost. Like, so, okay, you're going to ask me for £5,000. What is £5,000 going to be spent on? And then what is the impact that £5,000 going to have on the rest of your business? So that's like super, super important to be able to articulate when you're doing, any type of grant or funding kind of work. Even if you're going to private investors, if you can't display to them where you're going to spend their money and how it's going to give them their return, they're not going to give you the money. So yeah, we pitched that, and then yeah, there was like, I think 35 people, and yeah, we won that money. We came first in that competition, so we won £5,000, and yeah, that enabled us to kind of pay for a bigger server, touch up any bugs, kind of relaunch back to the masses. And yeah, since then we've captured 20% of the A-level economics market completely organically. So to be able to show what that grant was able to do, and actually to deliver on what we said we were going to do, is yeah, it's a great experience. And it's really good to be affiliated with people like Santander, and they've got that huge corporate finance background, and they can see, they give out business loans all the time. They can see if someone's going to squander money or if they're actually going to do well with it. So it was really kind of a big boost and pushing confidence for them to say, and give us that money and say, yeah, we trust you, you're going to prove, good on that money, and do well on it. And I guess we have. So yeah.
Oh, wow. And Congratulations, by the way.
I appreciate it.
The way you say it, so like, oh, I just done this and we done that. Yeah, we got one in 35, but honestly, because I'm sure like you can't be sort of a one bandwagon sort of person. So like, was that a point where you had to get people to help you or build a team? How did that come about?
No, I just wrote these grants, and like I said, but this was again where dyslexia could act against me, but I didn't let it do that. So I wrote this grant out, and it was a bit waffly. And like I said, I can think something, I can articulate, and I can talk it, but when it's down on paper, it's not exactly what I'm thinking. So again, hats off to my friends. A shout out to Lucy Gilbert, Manisha Kumar, and Lewis Good here for this. They really did help me here. So I was writing these applications out, everything I wanted. Then I'd sit on a call with them and say, I don't know what I've written here, and I don't know what that is actually saying, but this is what I want it to say. And then I say, cool, we get what you're trying to say. Let's see if we can tweak it. Let's move this around. Let's make what you're saying more concise and actually hit the points that you wanted it to hit. So shout out to them. They really, really helped me. And then yeah, we submitted and we got through. And then again with like the FEA Innovator Award, same thing. Like just once you've got one good kind of framework structure, there's similar questions that they ask you. Like some of they will have all different ones on there, but 2 or 3 questions will always be the same. Like, who are you? What's the problem you're solving? What's your solution? How are you going to spend the money? Those questions are always the same on every grant application. So really fine-tuned those when we submitted that Santander application, that we was able to kind of use it universally now. And I use that as like a template whenever I'm applying for any kind of competitions or grants, because I guess it's a proven framework. It's winning and being successful every time. So
Successful.
keep
Yeah.
using it, recycle it.
I mean,
So
and this is what I love doing this podcast, because I'm trying to get the value out right now. So, like, even someone who's listening and they're thinking they have this business, and because nowadays you see there's actually a lot of sort of grant sort of schemes or funding, but many people just don't have success. So, what are they lacking? Is it the pitch deck that you use? Is it sort of the colors? Is it what you said? What are you going to do with the money? So, if you were to sort of boil it down into 2 or 3 main things that made you successful, what would it be?
So just to put it out there, when you apply to a grant, you don't have to submit a pitch deck. So it's normally like an application form. So it's just got like a text field that you just have to write text into or upload like a Word document. So just an FYI there, so you don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. But if you're going for like any type of grant money or competitions, the 3 things that you need to make sure that you're doing is make sure that you know your why and your how. So if you don't know what that is for your business and you can't tell me in 20 seconds, then you're not going to get the money, number 1. Number 2, you need to be able to quantify your impact that you've already made and the impact that you intend to make with the money that you get. So there's no point saying, we're going to use this money to change lives. That is so vague. What does that actually mean? You need to say, right, this £5,000 is going to allow us to provide tutoring to 15 students, which is directly going to impact their studies, which is going to enable them to do whatever it is that you want them to. So that's just an example. So giving that specific quantity and that measure allows them to realize this money is having this specific impact. If they don't know what impact their money is going to have, they're not going to give it to you. And then obviously, third of all, is again, it's that breakdown of where the money is actually going. So if it's £5,000, is all £5,000 going to just one thing? That again could seem risky, because a company could think if that one thing goes wrong, that's £5,000 wasted. So if that's £5,000 going to be split between, £3,000 for one thing, that obviously is going to show what your main priority is, and then £1,000 here and 500 and 500, they can start to see, oh right, so you're going to diversify the spend of that money. You're going to spread the risk over 3 or 4 different areas. You're more likely to have success in in one area, that 1 out of 5 areas, and you are in just putting all your eggs in one basket and going for one thing. So
Yeah.
spreading and de-risking your investment is also extremely important. So I'd say those are your top 3. Know your how and why, quantify your impact, and really break down your cost and diversify your risk. So don't just, if you get 100 grand, spend 100 grand on one thing, or giving it to employ one person, or doing, it's super risky. If that doesn't work out, like I've just shown you so many times in my story how so many things just don't work out,
Work out.
what are you going to do? You're sat there with nothing to show for this money that you've been given. So yeah.
Wow. So you said that you're super sort of like you're a high risk taker, but you're an intelligent high risk taker, right?
That's
You are
come with
just
time. I can't say that I was always like that. Like I said, when I started with my books, a sensible person would have done print on demand. But like again, that was 5 years ago. Print on demand wasn't that massive, especially when it comes to like printed books. Print on demand T-shirts and things was, but actual books
yeah.
wasn't, and it wasn't accessible either. So I had to just take that risk and use my student loan and all my money that I was making my tutoring to put down a kind of a big hefty amount of money. And if that went wrong, I would have just lost all that money, because if no one bought a book, I would have sat there. I would have been sat there with 500 copies of a textbook that nobody wanted, that I either have to pay to store or just chuck away, and then I've just spent all that money on nobody wanting to buy it. So yeah, if I was to do it all again,
Okay.
I probably, yeah, I would, like I said, spread that risk over or use different services that you don't have to pay upfront, and if it doesn't work out, you're kind of screwed. You just got all this stock, or you can't shift. So yeah,
Yeah.
it
And
comes with
so
time. I think a key thing I'd always say, like my mentor always said to me, was when you're young, you need to make as many decisions as you possibly can make in your life. Because the more decisions you make, the better you get at making a decision. Because that's all that life is. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is the quality of the decisions that they're making. So the more decisions you make, the better the better you come at making them, because you're getting more practice at them. So he's always like, look at what you've done, look at, right, where did you go wrong? Okay, now use that to keep going forward, and keep on trying to make decisions, keep on trying to make calls, small decisions. Don't just sit on big ideas, make it happen, put it into practice, and just keep making decisions every day, rolling with the idea and rolling it out to whatever it's going to be. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And I guess it's living proof. Like I said, I made very stupid mistakes at the
decision.
start that I wouldn't do now, but I'd never know. If I started at 23, I would have made the same mistake then. And would it be more costly in this, arena of edtech? Absolutely. I would have literally squandered my business before I started it if I was to just start there. So that's why I always say that, kind of, when I said in inverted commas, I thought I was too young to start a business. You're never too young to start a business. You need to make all the mistakes when you're younger, because they're going to be the less riskier ones, because you don't have £100,000 to spend when you're 10 years old. You probably have 30 quid. So make the
Yeah.
mistakes when you're making 30 quid. So when you're at 30 grand, you're not making the same mistakes. It's not going to be as costly. So yeah,
Yeah.
that I'd always say that.
Absolutely. And even we spoke about you don't want to make it in this environment because I mean, if you want to make, many streams of income as well as keep on saving. But no, I mean, it seems to me like you just learned so much, and that's just from, like you said, going out there, doing things. You need to do things, you need to make decisions, you need to learn. You had a mentor, and like it just, again, it shocks me to think that all of this you were doing whilst you were either doing a full-time degree or sort of in full-time work, because you're speaking like a CEO, full-time entrepreneur, right? You're speaking to me, it sounds like everything you're doing, like you wake up and this is all you do, but it's not all you do. So you must have some excellent time management or excellent discipline in life. There's something that's underlying that we can probably take away from just your life and your journey. So what would you say that is that you've able to strike this balance?
Um, I would say that I have made a massive sacrifice, because I'm not going to sit here and make any lies. Everybody that knows me knows I work a lot. Like, I put in a lot of time, I put in a lot of hours. Like, I started my business when I was 18, I'm 23 now. We've launched the platform, won a national award, whatever. That's 5 years of relentless work. Every single day I've worked on my business. And whether that would be tutoring a pupil, getting that more exposure, learning more about what it is that I want to offer, listening to podcasts, going to events, networking, mentoring, whatever it is. I've every single day worked on the business. I've done anything I've done in my real life. I'd always sit back and spend at least an hour every day and think, how can I work on the business from what I've learned from today? And I think that has helped me. And I think I'm still trying to find a balance between looking after myself and working and having time for hobbies, because I love music, I love playing instruments, I I love cooking, I love going out, I love doing a lot of things. But in the past 5 years, I've definitely parked a lot of things to the side and made a big sacrifice. So I don't know if I am actually the best person to talk about balancing loads of things. Well, not even balancing work and life. I guess I'm good at balancing lots of work things at once, but balancing work and life, remembering to eat and to sleep. Like I said today, I've just been working today. All I've eaten today is a banana, and I've drank about 5 liters of water. Like that's it. That's all I've been
Uh,
using to get me in, and that's not something I want to glorify and tell people you're not working hard enough if you're eating and you're looking after yourself. Like I want to become somebody who can take healthy breaks from work and who can have good amounts of sleep and who can do that. So I guess maybe I want to ask you, how have you managed to do it? Because you haven't been sitting on your hands at uni. You've also been going through the motions. You've been doing a whole load of stuff. You've landed a top graduate job at one of the most grueling universities in the country, starting a podcast, building your personal brand. So how have you managed that? Actually, I'll flip it on you.
no, I mean, you know what? The honest truth, I don't even want to sound like I'm literally copying you. Is literally sacrifice. Because I asked you to get a different answer from myself, or what is it that she does? Is it her sleep schedule? But
I
for
don't have
me,
one.
honestly, for me to do everything I've done, and if you're listening, you're probably thinking the same thing. It's just a lot that I've sacrificed. That's so you would okay. Let me give you an examples. Like I think I mentioned this before, but like I feel like I've sacrificed a lot of my social life. Right. I have a lot of friends who are just more accessible. They're just more accessible. They're sociable. Whereas some people, my friends sometimes make some jokes like, "Oh, he's probably busy," or "Don't invite him. Or, he won't go out," or something like this. Victor, I call him. He sees me. It rings, but he don't pick up. Some of that might be true, but the point is that a lot of things that I've been able to do, I feel like it's because I've sacrificed so many other things, right? Um, including so one of them is just being accessible, right? Having because I can't because every day I plan like crazy on my Google Calendar, so it's like I know when I'm gonna be eating most of the times, or I know when I have this time, and you just think like we live in a life like I just don't factor in that my friend's gonna call me. I don't factor that in. I don't have a Google Calendar like Shay call me at 5 p.m. unless we actually schedule that in, right? You don't factor in stuff like I'm in my house, like I said, I'm back at home. If something goes wrong, or like let's say the plumbing works, repair works, oh no, I don't factor that in. So it's sort of like there's so many things in life. The way I sort of plan my days and around my life is sort of like it's just sort of work, 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 work. But if something happens where that work is disjointed, you know, I won't really complain because I'm expecting sort of that, although I don't factor it in. But what that basically means is that I sacrifice, just a lot of time elsewhere. And I think that it just boils down to that. There's so much time. No, sorry. There's 24 hours in a day. There's only so much time you have to do everything.
Hmm.
And for me, I feel like sacrifice and prioritization. What is most important to you as of today? That's how I operate. Not even like an as of today. What's most important to me is I jump on this Zencaster and record this podcast. Right. That's at the back of my mind. That's the most important thing. Right. Tomorrow I might be different. So going back to your point before I run off on a tangent, like for me, how do I do everything? I think I basically planned out, look at my life like, and we go back to this P word. What's your purpose? What is my purpose in life? I try to answer it every day. Am I happy doing what I'm doing? Is there a final goal or objective out there? And I think about, okay, what are the tasks or the goals? We can now put goals that I can sort of hit, achieve, that will move me closer to the overarching goal. Then I track it back and say, okay, what's the most important thing I need to be doing today?
Mm.
And I feel like that is just my system of operation.
Oh,
And
that's really cool. I want to just jump in before I forget the question. Have you ever had a moment where your purpose has changed and it's really derailed because you thought you was really set on a purpose, and then you just woke up and thought, after evaluating, it's not that?
that's a great question. Um, sorry. So I think partly yes, there has been a point. So when I was younger, so let's going back to secondary school times when we talked about the chair cover business, clothing business, and all of these things. So I thought like, as vague as it sounds, but I thought my purpose in life is just sort of to be a financier, so make money to finance a lot of big stuff. So when I was young, in fact I still do, but I wanted to create a charity called the Sauce Foundation. So my name's
Mhm.
Sasanya, and I built some personal brand like SOS Sauce, right?
Mm.
And people used to call me. So I basically wanted to build that charity, but I knew that I need to make money. So my goal is to be an entrepreneur. My purpose in life was to make money to finance stuff. So that was when I was 15, 16. When I started to grow older, life wasn't so linear anymore, right? I started to understand and think from different like interactions I had that, wow, my purpose is kind of changing, because whilst I was aiming for that, like, so for the original one, whilst I was aiming to make money, etc., I was doing loads of different ambitious things. I noticed that people were sort of honoring me, or they were like saying, oh, Victor's doing this, or congratulating me, and they started to ask questions, and they were curious, and so many people wanted to know what their purpose was. So many people wanted to get out the rut that they were in. So it started to change. I started to be like, wow, okay, let me speak to this person. So I started to do a lot of motivational stuff. So I started
Mhm.
to host events. I started to do one-to-one calls. I started to do coaching. I started to mentor people. Oh, you want to do what I'm doing? Okay, what's your life like? What do you have any ambitions? Do you have any goals? How do you speak? Do you know how to network? Do you know how to communicate properly? So it's like the purpose started to change. I think, wait, God, and I'm a Christian, so I believe we're created for a purpose. I started to ask God and say, wait, so God, so what? Am I meant to help these people over here? Am I meant to communicate? Is this my purpose now? Then you grow a bit older, then it's like it's always been around sort of communication for me. It's always been around communication to the masses, to basically help people, you know, what's the word? To help people basically discover what it is they need to do. And I felt like it came in a range of different communication pieces. And this is actually one of the reasons why I started the podcast. So my purpose is not to create a podcast. The podcast is assisting the overarching purpose. But to your point, my purpose has changed.
Mhm.
And there was a time where I thought I wanted to be a motivational speaker. So that was the main thing, and I just like you, like when I get something in my mind, I have to act on it ASAP. So the first time I thought I want to be a motivational speaker, I went out there, and I basically tried to, I emailed my old school. They didn't even reply to me, so I went out there tried to get my first speaking gig. I remember I was in a group chat, I was sending messages, and I got through to one lady, and one lady finally took me on board. I'm really paraphrasing here just because of time, but yeah, she invited me to a school, and I done my first school assembly, and it was ecstatic. When I was speaking, like everyone was just locked in on me. It's like I had the stage, and you have to like, I watched so many videos on YouTube, so I had to move around, I had to work the room, make gestures. I made a presentation, and I was up all night the previous night making the presentation I was going to use. And after that was great. Then I deeped it after the second one, like, whoa, is this what I want to keep on doing, like time after time? And I was thinking, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't think so, because I was at uni, and I was, or when push comes to shove, like when your degree, when you're I'm so sorry, but when you're getting some of your grades back, you're really thinking, wait, do you want to be I don't know, like if they weren't, because I done this for free. Then
Mm.
sometimes I got an email about another school, but it's like you have to try to travel from Coventry down, spend train money. I know I'm gonna buy food, taking time out, like missing a seminar, and it really questions you, like, what is your purpose? Because I'm still at university. So
Mm.
why am I studying economics? Is this going to tie into it? So it's like, I think it's a massive question in life. That's why I call it the P word. You can't just use it aimlessly. But yes, I always go back to just sort of, for me it's always about pleasing God, and what I always ask God, what am I meant to be doing? And I take it day by day. But I
Mm.
definitely think, and you just see it from results, like your book sold out, so there was a need for the book. When I do the podcast and I speak and I do all of these different engagements, so many people benefit, so many people are impacted, so many people are like, wow, so I know there's something here, and I know that people who are listening now, something's gonna change and click in their lives. Whether that's that business advice they needed to get the grant, whether that's to relate to your story, whether that's just a kick, to say, think about your goals and your career. Something's going to happen, right? So, long answer to get back to your question, but my purpose has up and changed. I've been derailed, but I still think that as I do what I do every single day, it's leading to that overarching sort of
Yeah.
purpose when it's all
No, I
finished
love
and
that.
done.
I think it's exactly like I think we're exactly the same in that respect that if we've got something in our head, we just have to keep going until we do it. And then once we've done it, then we can assess whether that was the right thing or the wrong thing. But even if it's the wrong thing, we're going to now find the right thing because that's just the way that our brain works and just find a solution. I think when you're constantly just looking for that solution, then you're never I think you're always going to be in a better position that you was in
Yeah. No,
yesterday.
I
So,
absolutely agree. And I always say like it's just consistent. Like some things, you know, when you know that you have some sort of skill, so if you act on your plan, something's got to give. Like
yeah,
just with time. And what's so phenomenal to me is that you said you spent 5 years since you first started your business, and look at where you are now, right? I always start to think like, and sometimes you can fall into comparison on the podcast because I love doing this because I get to talk to so many amazing people and just enjoy myself. Look at how the time 1 hour 25 minutes. Wow,
wow,
okay.
I honestly, I
The time is flying. I think this is the longest ever podcast recording I've done. That is crazy. But to my point, I was gonna say that I only started this podcast in January this year, so it's like it's been 6 months basically, and I'm just excited to see if I was to continue this, where would it end up? Would I have a
mhm.
show? Would it be in the metaverse? Would I have an event? I'm dropping a bit of hints to what might come in the future, but does that make sense? And I feel
Yeah,
like again, it'll just be another sort of pillar or post or mark about okay, this is still leading towards the overarching purpose. But yeah,
no, I completely agree with you. Like you said, it's literally a probability and a numbers game. If you just keep doing something, something positive is going to happen, like just
happen.
by probability. Like you don't even have to be like a wizard. If you just do good something good every day towards whatever you want to do, something is going to get you closer there. Like
Yeah.
no matter if it's in 1 day or 5 years or 10 years, it
Yes.
will happen. You just need to be resilient, and I think that that kind of blinkers on like everybody else needs to zone out. I just need to do what I need to
This
do and
done.
just
Yeah.
getting it done. Yeah.
Wow, we're actually very similar than I thought we were.
Yeah,
And
same. Like when I did research, it's funny that when I learnt about when you was doing your motivational stuff and you was doing your kind of one-to-one coaching calls and that kind of thing, that's when you popped onto my radar. I think you was interacting with V, and that's when I saw you and I thought, oh, let me just have a look at this profile. It was a couple of years ago. And yeah, I was like, interesting. Like I find that really interesting. And that's what I did take a bit of inspiration from yourself, to be honest. Like
wow,
about around kind of personal branding because I thought, wow, like I really like that you've literally just made a website about yourself and you do coaching calls.
yeah.
Like I find that really interesting. I'd never
And
seen it before,
that
and I
was
thought that's really
actually
cool.
through the pandemic. It's so crazy because when the pandemic hit, whereas for you probably went for a meltdown with your books, I was jumping with joy because my exams got cancelled, and
Yeah.
I was thinking, what should I do with my time? And that is literally in the pandemic. I remember everybody didn't know what to do, and just again, my mind clicked. The first thing I done, I actually hosted something called 2020 Vision. So it was like a 7-day conference on Zoom. And the reason why it was so significant is because I used Zoom way before the pandemic. So, like, I knew what Zoom was. A
Mm,
lot of people never heard of the term Zoom until the pandemic. So, whereas hosting meetings, I used to be on like doing a bunch of different other events on this platform. So, I hosted it weren't meant to be 7 days, it was meant to be like a 5 day. I got online at 7 a.m. And shout out to the people who are listening who was on the 2020 Vision calls. But we used to basically every single day. So this pandemic, so I know no one's doing nothing. So
mm,
7 a.m. you wake up, you get on a call, and we'll just literally. I think there was 15 of us on the first call. We'll literally talk about, so like, what's your 2020 vision? Because that's what it's called. So sort
yeah.
of like, you had a 2020 vision, but March comes, 3 months in, first quarter, everything hits the fan, right?
Hmm.
And we basically, like, if you're on the call, for example, we all try to be all talking and be like, oh, what can you do next? And we
Mm,
discuss who you are. Day 2, 40 people. Day 3, 60. Day 4, 70. Day 5. Because I remember the last day, I used to bring on, when it was growing, I brought on guests to like
hmm.
speak. I had 100 people at 7 a.m. as in like ready, as in camera.
Wow.
Some
Wow.
some people started off in their what's it called? Snood or hoodie? No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
yeah,
like that big
that
like
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Day five, I saw people up with their notepads, like all sit up and stuff like that. And from that, it just spiraled onto so many different things. So yeah, I made a I, I just planned it in my head. Personal brand, photo shoot, suits. I bought like 5 different suits, outfit changes, booked 2 hours, got all the photo done. Then I need a website designer, got that done. Let's book up coaching calls and XYZ. Then I started to do free calls because it was just everything just happened at the same time for me. And it was just like, was like you said, when there's a demand for something, it's just like my brain wasn't thinking where this will go. It was just like, just go.
Yeah,
You
just
know,
keep going. I wanna do it. Yeah.
just keep going. And obviously, I actually done personal brand training. I don't know if you know. So I used to do courses. So I actually done, but it's kind of like you. It wasn't Edtech. I was actually there on Zoom for 2 whole hours. I'll actually coach people through how to build a personal brand from scratch. So I'll talk about all the different things that you don't see. So not about the colors and stuff. I'll talk about, okay, before you build a personal brand, what's your story?
Mhm.
What's your why? Why should people listening to you? What value do you bring to the world? And that's
Mhm.
how I define personal branding. So value and valuable has always been sort of at the
Yeah.
forefront of what I do, is
Mhm.
to provide value in whatever capacity. Hence why we've got the podcast now up and running. Next year I might have a restaurant opening. Who knows? But value would be the forefront. And yeah, so crazy journey, but we're here now.
Yeah, no, it's actually super interesting. I mean, just to drop a little nugget of information, I am gonna be creating a podcast as well, and I'm asking you live on air. I'd love to have you on as a guest.
Wow.
So, we recently just moved into our new premises, like literally on Friday. And yeah, I'd love to I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you down, and I'd love
Let's
to
do
to
it.
get you on the
Let's
podcast.
do it.
'Cause I want
Live
to
on
uncover
air.
your
So I can't I
story. Yeah.
can't even back out of this one. Smart. You see, you need to use your brain like Alicia.
Don't ask if you don't get.
Yeah, no, let's do it. Honestly, I'm so happy, and I think with podcasting, it's such a growing thing, and there's no like. I would love to come on your podcast. If you're listening and you want me to get on your podcast, hit me up, message me, man. If I have the time capacity, I'll definitely be there if it's a great fit. But listen, this has been so lovely, but we do have to wrap it up before I turn this into a movie. Um, what the last thing I'm just gonna ask is sort of like, Alicia, like, so you're 23,
Mhm.
founder, CEO of Econominds. You're currently working in in fact, we haven't, we skipped it, but you're currently working in the job that you envisioned when you were 19 years old, or for the company, should I say, with your mentor, Keith, in the company. What are you looking forward to in 2022?
I'm looking forward to bringing a platform that is personalized and creates relatable content for Gen Z students. We're releasing a whole brand new platform in September, and you will not get relatable and personalized content like this for A level economics anywhere else. So we're uplearn on steroids.
Amazing, amazing. You heard Alicia. Thank you so much for joining me on the Valuable Podcast. Where can they find you, follow you, and support you?
So you can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Econominds, and you can follow me or message me on LinkedIn if you have any other queries or questions, or if you just want to connect at Ilisha Masaun.
Perfect. And I'll also drop the social media handles in the bio. Bio? Okay, I'm gonna edit that bit out. I'll also drop the social media handles in the show notes or the descriptions or link or wherever you're listening to this on. Thank you, Alicia, for coming on the Valuable Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.